Hey, welcome back, YouTube. Hey, so I haven't been on here in a while, but I have been busy and wanted to share with you some insights on how to help you be successful as a mobile notary. So the first thing, let me just share where I'm coming from. In the last few months, I've been working diligently, hiring notaries around the country and sending people out on mobile notary work, remote notarizations, apostille assignments. All that great work has been happening these last few months, and which has caused me to learn more information or more. I've run into problems because there's a lot of notaries out there that just don't know what they're doing. And this isn't a video about know your laws and all that stuff. I mean, yeah, that's obvious, okay? But we need to go a little deeper. We need to go and make sure that we're following what the handbook says or whatever your Secretary of State says you need to be doing as a notary. I'm going to give some examples. So I had this couple call me a couple weeks ago, and I was going to set them up to do a remote notarization, and they said, no, we want to do an in-person notarization. And they were in Indiana. Not an issue, and their document is going to the Philippines, and so not a problem. They said okay. I said, do you want me to locate a mobile notary for you? I'll have them come out, notarize your documents. They'll send them off to our courier there in Indiana, and then they'll get processed and sent back to you. They said, no, we're going to find our own notary. It's like, okay, no problem. I said, okay, so when you get that notarized, send me photos of the document so I can just make sure that everything's, on the up and up. And of course, I don't know anything about Indiana notary law. So they sent me the picture of the notarization, and I'm like, okay, great. I looked at the first one pretty quick. I said, yeah, it looks okay to me. And then they sent me another second document, and I looked at it and I'm going, wait a second, this isn't right. There's something wrong here. So after further investigation, I realized that the notary had just stamped the document with their notary stamp, and that was it. And I'm like, okay, that doesn't work. So I told him, yeah, that doesn't work. It's not going to work. It has to be redone. So I pulled up the notary handbook there in Indiana, and I was they had me on the phone with the notary. And so I'm telling the notary, yeah, I emailed the whole handbook over to the lady and said, it's on page 54. I think it was 54. Now somebody's going to check Indiana. Is it page 54? But anyway, I think it was like 53, 54, somewhere in there. It had an example of an acknowledgement or something, what the language had to be and so forth. And I said, yeah, you need a loose certificate. So she didn't know what a loose certificate was, which was a red flag right there. And then she said, oh, so I just need to type this up and put this on on the document. I said, yep. So anyway, she typed that up, and then hours go by, and I texted the guy and said, hey, can you resend me the corrected document so I can just make sure it's all right before you ship it out to the courier? So they sent it over, and I guess they were on a bike ride, a motorcycle ride, and they said, oh, we pulled over for this, it's important. I'm like, okay, no problem. So they sent it over to me, And I look at it, and I looked at it very carefully. It had the right wording, but the notary, instead of putting the signer's name in the acknowledgement, the notary put their name in the acknowledgement. I'm like, oh, yeah, it has to be redone again. And, I didn't mention this on the first go-round. The first notary just stamped the document, and she didn't even, the lady didn't even sign the document. It was a power of attorney. She didn't even sign the document. Like, her name's there, and she didn't even sign it. I'm like, okay. So anyway, so really scary on this. And of course, in apostasy work, this is where it's critical. This stuff gets scrutinized at the Secretary of State's office, okay? So they look through every little detail. So if there's a missing signature or something's not quite right, they're going to reject it, and it's going to be a waste of time, money, effort. Everybody's going to lose all the way around, okay? So I'm sharing this with you. This goes for every notary. I'm in California. It doesn't matter where you're located, you can learn from this. So I'm just going to go through some key points on what you need to check with on before you send something to the Secretary of State. Okay? And this, you don't need it doesn't have to be, you don't know if it's going there. You could be a notary just notarizing some document, and you don't know that the person's going to be taking it to the Secretary of State. So it's very critical that you do your job 100% correctly, so that if it does end up at the Secretary of State, they're not going to get a rejection letter and then come back to you and say, hey, you notarized something wrong, or you notarized the document wrong, or whatever they're going to tell you. Because I'm going to tell you right now, when you do something wrong as a notary, it doesn't just affect you, it affects all of us, even myself. So that notary that I was telling what they need to do, it makes them look bad, and it makes me look bad. Because I'm a notary. I'm in the profession, So the client, I can tell them, that something's not quite right here, and they don't have to believe me. They can say, you don't know what you're talking about. You're in California. I'm in Indiana. We have different laws here, or whatever they might think, okay? So it's not my job, obviously, to know all the state's laws and everything, and I don't profess to know that kind of information. There are some people in the notary community that have a better handle on more, all the states or most of the states, and I'm just not there, okay? But what I do know how to do is I know how to Google things, and I know how to look things up on Secretary of State's website, and usually they have things laid out pretty straightforward. So the first thing that I want to share with you is, when you are doing a notarization and you're using an acknowledgement, for example, or a jurat or something, whatever the notarial act is, make sure that it's exactly how your Secretary of State wants it laid out, okay? And this is becoming an issue here in California, and this is specific to California notaries, is the Secretary of State, what's in the book is what they want to see in your acknowledgement or jurat, okay? They have under, the National Notary Association and some of these other places, they have an optional section. The Secretary of State, they will allow that. They won't have an issue with that per se. But what is coming up is if you have things under the signature line, like notary signature here or whatever, it says notary signature. They don't want that underneath the signature line. On the if you look at the manual, it says signature. It's on the left of the line, and then it's on the same level as the as the signature line. That's what they want to see. They don't want to see any words under that line that says notary signature line. Okay? So you need to be aware of this stuff. So yes, all the other language is correct, but when it goes to the Secretary of State, especially for apostasy work, they're going to be a little more stringent on what they're accepting and what is happening, because they have to say, yep, that's right. They see your signature. And that's another thing is, if you have wording underneath the signature line, they're comparing your signature to what's in their database. And if they have to fight through, they have a program that, speaking in California, that checks the percentage of accuracy of that signature. So if you have words underneath there and your signature is running into those words, it causes issues. And that could, I don't know if that's the reason they're rejecting it, but this could be a reason why it could cause a problem. So that's why it's important to have the exact language that they have on your certificate. The other thing that has come up with, that I've noticed or run into several times, is the notary stamp. And it has to be clear, legible, not blurry. You know, make sure it's a good impression, it has everything. Make sure that you're happy with what it looks like, and make sure that your standard is higher than the Secretary of State standard. Meaning, when you stamp that thing, you're like, man, this looks like it's perfect. It looks like it's day one out of the box. Okay, so if it's your 4th year in your commission and you're like, man, my stamp is getting light here, I need to re-ink it. Okay, you can do that. Okay, but what you don't want to do, okay, let's say you got your stamp from the NNA. Okay, I have those stamps too. Okay, what you can't do is you cannot take your ink pad out, re-ink it, slap it in there, and go use it, an hour after you did that. Do not do that, because it's not going to work. That ink needs to sit for 24 hours or longer in that pad before it can be used. So if you want to ink your pad, ink it, set it aside, have another spare pad that you can slap in there and use, and then you're good to go. And then you can, after, when that pad starts getting light, then take your re-inked one and put it in there, and then you can be on your way. And what's happening is I'm having people, they re-ink this, they slap it in there, they stamp it, and it's all blur. It's like a blob. You can't even, nothing's legible. The notary's name's not legible, their number's not legible, and it's not going to work. It's going to be rejected. Okay, that's a problem. Okay, if you do notarizations where you're using a notary stamp, meaning you have a stamp with the notarial language, so the acknowledgement or jurat, you're using an entire stamp. I'm speaking primarily for California, because in California we have a lot of wording that has to be stamped. It has to be all there. If you're using one of those stamps, not a problem in using those stamps, but it has to be 100% legible. If it is not legible, please use a loose certificate. Even if the client says, hey, I want you to stamp on my document, use a loose certificate, especially if it's going out of the country. Say, you know what, I know what you want. If you want that, well, let's do it twice then. Have 2 copies, one with the loose certificate and one without, okay? It's better to do that than stamp it and say, okay, you're on your way. And I know that as a notary, we can't really advise people what to do, okay? Because we're not attorneys, okay? But what you can do is you can say, if I stamp on your document and it's not 100% clear, it could be rejected at the Secretary of State. So I know that by using a loose certificate, It's 100% legal here in California. These are the state laws that I have to abide by. There will be no problem. The country that it's going to, they might not like California laws, but that's not their problem. They can't do anything about that. So a loose certificate is going to be placed in here. They're going to put the apostille allonge on top of my certificate. It will be stapled together, and they should accept it no problem in the country it's going to. Not saying that there aren't countries that might have an issue with it or whatever. If you're watching this and go, Nigeria is not accepted or something. I don't know. Whatever country it is, there might be a country like that, and that's not what this video is about. Okay, this video is about trying to get your notary certificate perfect and accepted at the Secretary of State, and that's what you want to do. Those are the things that you're looking to do when you're doing a notarization. So those are the key things I'm running into that are causing an issue. I want everybody to learn from this video and take it to heart. Take your job as a notary serious, so that when you put work out there, people aren't going to come back to you and say, hey, it got rejected, I need it redone. Or they don't even come back to you. They're like, that notary didn't know what they're doing, because the Secretary of State, they'll throw a notary under the bus just as easy as anybody, okay? So they just, that's another thing. If you forget how to sign your name, what you signed on your oath at the county, if you say, I'm going to come up with a different signature because I just don't like signing the way I signed initially, and you come up with a new signature, it's going to be rejected as Secretary of State. And you know what they tell them? They say, the notary signature doesn't match. You go back and tell the notary that they need to figure out their signature. Well, guess what? The client is like, hey, I need to get this done. It needs to be mailed out to whatever country it's going to go to. I can't go to that notary and try and have them figure out their signature. They're going to go to another notary, okay? So you might not even know that the document was rejected over at the Secretary of State. So that's why it's very important to know what you're doing, have your signature down, your stamp clear, all the language is correct on your certificates. You make sure that you put in the county, the state, fill that out correctly. Make sure it's 100% correct, okay? And if you need a video on how to do that, I think I have a video on going through how to fill that stuff out. I might redo a video because I've run into some other issues here where in particular in California, on the acknowledgement, it has to have your notary name, comma, notary public, okay? It has to be in that format, not your name, notary officer, not your name, comma, public notary, not your name, comma, notary, what was the other one that I had? There was another weird one that somebody came up with. But anyway, it has to be notary public. That's what's in the book. That's what's in the handbook. Okay, that's specific to California, but whatever the case is in your state, you want to make sure that it matches what your state requirements are. So if your Secretary of State says, hey, put your name, comma, notary public, you better put that there. Don't make something up. Okay? And of course, the people that are watching this probably are notaries that are full-time or part-time notaries that are on their game. This video probably won't get to the employee notary that notarizes, one or two different types of documents their whole career, and it never leaves the country, It never gets to the Secretary of State, so, wherever it goes, it doesn't affect anybody. But if it does hit you and you are an employee notary, I'm happy. And just to wrap this up, I'm 100% thinking about doing a notarization class, online class for and targeting these notaries that are in employment situations, because I feel like a lot of these notaries, they go to the class here in California, 6-hour class, they leave and it's just they can't handle it because they just don't have the experience and don't have the desire, because it's just like, yeah, I'm a notary for my job, and I might see one notarization a year. Who knows? They don't get to see everything. So I'm thinking about doing a class on that, like a $10 class, something like that, just to get people to participate and share some information, because this is critical that we get this notarization down. We need to do our job correctly. If we don't do our job correctly, it causes issues for everybody, including people watching this video, because it makes us look like we have no idea what we're doing as a notary. Okay, so we're trying to elevate this career. We want to hone our skills as a notary. As in the notary craft, we want to just do everything correctly. Not saying that we can't make mistakes. 100%, I make mistakes all the time, but you have to be right there, ready to correct them, ready to say, hey, I made a mistake. Let me correct that for you. Even if you have to go above and beyond to say, hey, if this was a aposty thing and the person took it up there, and say, hey, you know what, I'll correct it and I'll take it up there or send it up there, whatever you're going to do for the person. Do some customer service. Not saying that you want to pay the fees. You're going to pay the fees up there because they have to still pay the fees. But, come try and be a resource to those that you're helping. Try and be there to say, hey, I'm going to try and make it right for you, so that, I'm going to go the extra mile, I guess. So anyway, that's it. I hope this was helpful. I don't want to drag this on. I hope you gleaned something out of this video. If you listened this far, great. If you dropped off in the first minute, you're not seeing this anyway. But those that have listened, like and subscribe, and hopefully I'll bring you some other content. If you are a notary and you want to be on my list of people that I call, add your name to the Notary Family Database. So that's I'll put the link in the description. Doesn't cost you anything to be on that list. And what I do is, if I'm looking for a notary in your state, I look that up first and try and find you. And if you're there, I will give you a call and send you the work. So just to let you know, I did do that the other day. I called a notary down in LA area and said, hey, are you close to this city? Because I'm looking for a notary to go there. And she said, yeah, I can go there. So I'm like, okay. It's probably a bit too far out of her area, but she did it for me, which was nice, and we got it done. So anyway, just wanted to share that with you. Hope that was helpful. Have a great day, everyone, and happy notarizing.